Boris, and I'm a resident of Washington, D.C., but born in Ukraine. And my family moved here to the U.S. in 1994, but we, of course, spoke Russian in the household because my family was in the part of Ukraine that spoke Russian. And then in addition to that, when I went to school at UCLA and then later at graduate school, Middlebury College, I chose Russian as my second language, which was, you're required to study a second language for my major. I would grow up in a Russian Jewish culture, I wouldn't say grew up specifically in the Russian culture. Growing up in America, we're all around, different kind of nationalities. So I grew up around probably just as many Bosnian people as Russian people, or just as many Ethiopians as Russians. But yeah, of course, inside of the home, we kept some of the Russian traditions. It's the dusha, it's the soul. I feel like we're a fiery part of the Jewish people, and I maybe we're not the most well versed in terms of Torah knowledge and traditions, but I think you put a Russian Jew on any sort of test, in terms of how Jewish you are, and I think that's where we shine. So I think that's where we are. We are the fighters. We're like the tribe of Don. We're here to defend and protect.
Where are you in this Judaism? Where do you see yourself?
I feel like I want to grow more. I strive to learn every day, so I do the daily Torah parsha with Chabad. Of course, put on tefillin, keeping kosher, and I just try to learn and improve, but I still have a long way to go.
And your family also is doing that?
No, they're not. My family is, they're not practicing Judaism, but they're respectful of it, and I think they love that I'm doing it.
What are you and your wife doing?
So we've brought Shabbos to Fairfield to her family, so they've never had Shabbos before like that. So we get to be able, so I view this as an opportunity to really, take what we learn, who we are, and bring it into their house. And they have a mezuzah in their house now, and then we do, we have a full Shabbos meal, and I tell them the Torah parsha, and I make them wash their hands. They get to learn about it, and I think your dad is even remembering some of the prayers, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Everything's meant for a purpose, so I think we're here for a purpose.
How did you get closer to it?
Well, it started back in UCLA. I joined the AEPI, which is the Jewish fraternity. It kind of really started with that, and through the fraternity, I got to go to Israel on it was called a 3-week AEPI Jerusalem road trip, and there we got to we were basically part of Aish Torah for 3 weeks and got to learn a lot about it. And once I tasted that Jewish identity in Israel and seeing the Holy Wall, it inspired me to do much more. So then after that, it just kind of went from there, I think.
Aish Torah, what is that?
It's a religious organization, and their goal is basically to educate you more on Jewish ideas. So they sponsored the trip, and that's where we stayed in Israel.
And you started getting closer to religious. Tell me a little bit about that.
Obviously Chabad, played a major role, and for work I travel. I travel all the time to different countries, different cities, and everywhere I go there's a Chabad house. I was in Ukraine. They were like, "What do you want to say to us?" And I said, every Shabbat needs a Jew, and every Jew needs Shabbat. And I'm just so happy that anywhere I go there's a Chabad. And that's just all I want to say there. So thank you guys for hosting me, and I think that's the idea of Chabad. It's just a welcoming place where you get to learn about yourself and no pressure. I think a lot of people think there's pressure. There's no pressure. So yeah, that's kind of how it started, and that's how it continues.
So do you feel that you are getting closer to your mission?
I believe so, yeah. I think I'm getting closer. Again, so far away, but Rome wasn't built in a day. Definitely baby steps, and I feel like I'm learning and growing every day.
So you say that your process is also with your wife?
We're in this definitely together, and our marriage has helped a lot to bring us closer into Judaism. And we had a traditional Jewish wedding with the chuppah and the whole thing. And a lot of my friends who don't recognize that side of us were there, and they they're all Jewish, but they hate kosher food, and they think this whole thing is stupid or whatever. But I think from at least from others, they're like, dude, this was one of the funnest weddings we've had. And I was like, yeah, because it's the real deal. You feel like it's a union of souls. This is not we're not here just to say I do and then divorce 2 weeks later. this is like a path that we've gone through together. Her, both her and I, in terms of all the different changes and all the lots of different sacrifices you have to make, and friends, who see you and remember you in a different way, now see you now today. And there's a lot to overcome with that, and you don't want to, these are strong relationships, especially Russian people, very strong friendships. You don't want to isolate your friends, but I mean, this is a priority for us. This is number one for us. So this is, we think already we don't have kids yet, but we think, who are our kids going to marry now? It's an important thing, this thing, So that's what it is.
And do you feel that now your friends are able to see a better side to this?
Well, I think that because they see how committed we are, they're definitely respectful of it. So I put that out first. So as an example, if we go traveling, they know that there's going to be like kosher restrictions. They know that like these guys are not going to do anything on Shabbat. And like before, they'd be like, "This is like what the heck? Like what are you doing? What do you mean you're not doing it?" But now they're thinking ahead. So like. My buddy who's like completely a-religious, I remember we were cooking or something and there was like a fork that wasn't kosher, and he goes, don't put that fork there. Like, how does he know that, Which means like inside of him too, like he couldn't have learned that stuff. You know what I mean? There's something inside of him too that's like, yeah, there's something going on. And I feel like, so I think, we're encouraging them in their own ways to, on Yom Kippur, maybe go to the synagogue, so I think it's good stuff.
This is going to just become more and more, or you're happy with where you are?
My philosophy, I guess to reiterate the point, is that every single day, if not minute, you should be growing. You should be more and more and more. I mean, what are we doing here? Are we just eating, drinking, and we should be doing something. So nothing is ever enough,
Have you ever had any really hard situations because you're Jewish?
Actually, my grandpa in Ukraine, and I was a young kid at the time. And it was Passover, and there was a store. There was one store that sold matzah, and this already it's not Soviet time, so it's not like it's illegal. You can buy matzah, but outside of the store there was like a skinhead guy, and he was kind of, like, who's gonna come in here? Because he knew they were selling matzah. And I remember my grandpa, saw him from the car, got out, he put on his yarmulke, which he never does. He walked into that store, he looked at that guy and said, "Do you have a problem here?" That guy, he was like 5'6", but that guy was a tough guy. He could beat up pretty much 7 of those guys. So he was kind of like, here's a guy, again, didn't know much, did whatever they did, but when it comes down to it, you gotta have matzah for Passover, and he showed that guy what's up, that was it. So I think that, that's something I remember. I was at my great-grandma's cemetery. This was about 2 years ago, and I got a chance to walk through the Ukrainian cemetery and imagine, like, you can see like hundreds of years of like your family's history, and like all of them are buried together, in the cemetery, and it's like in Ukraine, it's like crazy stuff, but like all the way to like 1820, they're all there, like they're all Jewish, they're all there, they're all like in the same area. I mean, that's how many people can say that,
When do you feel Jewish?
Always. It's with me every minute, for sure. Always I feel Jewish. We should all be grateful that we're here. We have an opportunity to do great things. I think we should all be trying to elevate ourselves every day and become better. And I think we should be very grateful, because I think, I see around, even people who don't think they have a lot, they have a lot. I mean, the Pharaoh was not kind to us Jews. There was a lot of very terrible things. But just as we were able to overcome all those challenges, and we were able to overcome those challenges with the very small tools that they had back then. They were completely integrated into Egyptian society. They kept a few mitzvahs. They were keeping their names, as an example. But today, we have all the resources imaginable. We can be as close to Judaism as we need. And, just as Hashem was with them, so is He with us. What can we not overcome? So my message is that, let's keep going. And, I think we're all here for each other. So if anyone needs help, just turn to your fellow Jew.